This is William K. Murtaugh, Witness 1, and today we're going to talk about shiny objects. Now, Field McConnell is spending another day in jail as of 12:55 p.m. Eastern Time. He has not done one of his jailhouse talks. These things seem to happen sometime in the afternoon when I'm already done recording these things. But if he makes another recording, we'll talk about it. Now, not much came out in yesterday's recording other than another assurance that because Donald J. Trump was in Wisconsin, that this was somehow going to get Field McConnell out of his little predicament. Now, he did say in the next few days, he didn't say right away. And there was a call in the midst of all this for everybody to please quit fighting with each other. And for the time being, this seems to have worked, as people have been relatively quiet. Tim Holmseth hasn't said much of anything other than getting back into his slot with his weird conspiracies. And Kurt Pendergrass is over spouting his conspiracy theories, or not really conspiracy theories, but his weird take on the legal system. So everybody has kind of gone into their little respective corners and gone on with their usual business. About the only significant thing that ever happened in all this with Field McConnell is some lady decided to go over and take pictures of a sign. And somebody took pictures of the police station, and somebody took pictures of the American flag with an eagle on top of it, or some nonsense, and tried to make something out of it. But, that's typical of these people, to make a mountain out of a molehill. And then something else is happening today that is rather interesting. Cindy Abzug, the woman who got mixed up in a plot to kidnap her child from the foster parents charged with his care, is having an extradition hearing. Now, we know all about these, don't we? This is one of these deals where the decision has to be made whether she is going to allow herself to be taken back to Denver, Colorado, or she's going to hang around in Montana. Now, she's in a different situation than Field McConnell, as she is out on bond. So she could very well decide to fight extradition and stay in Montana. Or she could come back to Colorado. Now, the decision as to whether or not she does this will affect more than just her. For the simple reason that if she stays in Montana and fights extradition, it's going to be that much longer before she comes to trial and faces the charges she has in Colorado. And it's going to put off for that much longer. We, the public, finding out just what the heck was going on that got her in this situation in the first place. Now, this is why Field McConnell is currently in jail, because he's fighting extradition to Florida. He got arrested on November 4th, 2019. And this is January 15th, 2020. If Phil McConnell had decided to go to Florida in November rather than fight this extradition, his case might have been resolved by now. He might have received probation, had to sign a promise to shut up and not make death threats, which has got him into this predicament in the first place. And that would have been the end of things. He may have had to serve 30 days or some nonsense, which I doubt, and he would be on a plane home. Instead, he's sitting in a county jail awaiting this fight to end to determine whether or not he's going to come to Florida. And we have got until the beginning of March to find out. Maybe a little sooner, but we're looking at either February or March before Field is on his way to the Sunshine State. Ms. Abzug, on the other hand, if she decides not to fight extradition, would be back in ski country in a matter of days, probably by the weekend, latest being Monday. Now, whether or not she's going to be able to stay out on bond in the state of Colorado is a question that needs to be answered. But as long as she doesn't run away, as she would have the opportunity to do at today's hearing, she would probably be able to remain out on bail while the case is resolved. Now, the case in chief has been sealed by the judge. The details of the charges against her and the evidence against her has been sealed. And this creates a fear of the unknown, because anybody that might be a principal in the case, either a person of interest or a co-conspirator, don't know what the heck is going on. These people don't know what evidence has been produced in court. They don't know what kind of defense this woman is going to mount to try and mitigate the charges against her, and what she might be able to turn in return for a plea bargain or immunity from prosecution. So there's a lot of people that have a stake in what happens here. Some people that are known, and some people that may not yet be known. And one question that has always been on my mind, since I hadn't really been following her actions this closely, is why the hell was this woman in Montana? The child wasn't in Montana, as far as anybody knew. So why was this woman in Montana? Well, the answer, it seems, might be another one of these conspiracy theory, sovereign citizen, right-wing YouTube channels. That she might have been in Montana because of that outlet and because of the person who put up the bond for the woman. This is another element that probably should be explored at some time to figure out what purpose she could have had to be in the state of Montana, right smack in the middle of this alleged kidnapping plot. And it was interesting, and has not come out, as to how the hell the daughter knew she was going to be in Montana, for it was her daughter that made the phone call to the cops and turned her mother in. So the daughter knew she was going to be in Montana, and she probably knew why she was going to be in Montana. And that is probably going to come out in any subsequent trial of Miss Abzug, because someone's going to have to explain why in hell she was in the state of Montana. And also, what is going to come out is in detail is the who, what, when, where, and why of this kidnapping. How did she come up with this idea? Why did she come up with the idea? Who encouraged her? And who helped her? And that is where we get into what people need to worry about. Because it's those co-conspirators, those accessories after the fact, that have a lot to worry about. Because if there's a strong enough case for the prosecutors to do so, they will go after these subsequent participants. And we'll have a whole bunch of people out there that are going to be extradited to the state of Colorado. And if that happens, and if some of these people choose to fight extradition, things are going to come out. Because it's going to come out as to why these people are being extradited to Colorado. And the puzzle pieces will start falling into place as to exactly what happened and why. And no matter what happens to these people, whether they are able to beat the charges or not, the details of their actions are going to be on record. And their actions are going to be known, their motives are going to be known. And so it's going to be a busy year this year for a lot of people. Might even be a busy year for me if I'm able to start covering some of these hearings and some of these trials. Because I may be visiting a few cities. I like to cover things live. I like to be there in the middle of the action, to study the faces of the defendants and and to see how the various attorneys and witnesses argue and tell their story in these court proceedings. It's a little different to do it up front and personal rather than through innocuous text, or even in some cases if you're able to get a live feed. It's more interesting to be there in the seat and just watch the body language of people as they wait their fate, as they present their side of the story, and then sit back and watch and see what decisions are made about their lives. In the cases of a jury, complete strangers. You're going to have 6 to 12 complete strangers deciding the rest of your life. That has to weigh on people. You would think it would weigh on Field McConnell. Is he being informed of these events? Is he even aware that Cindy has been arrested? Who is in contact with Field McConnell that coordinates these phone calls? Or does Field just call up, they say, put me on the air, and he gets put on the air? He records his little half-hour call, and that's it. Field McConnell still has not retained a lawyer. For if once he does, that would be filed with the court, which I check periodically. The extradition part in limbo. Nothing's going on. Same holds true of his mortgage. The final judgment has come through the House by this spring. Will either have all its back bills caught up, or it will be ready for a foreclosure auction. And it's this development that is the most interesting because it's probably the one piece of the puzzle that may answer a lot of questions as to why things happened the way they did. It's going to answer why Field McConnell has been sitting in jail. It's going to answer why Timothy Charles Holmseth is in another state running away from a misdemeanor bench warrant. It's going to be the answer as to why there is a woman sitting in the state of Montana at this very moment fighting extradition to the state of Colorado, or saying, okay, send me back to Colorado and let me fight the war there. All these answers will come into play this spring when it comes time for the foreclosure to be finalized and the possession of the house returns to the bank. For it is then we will all know for a fact if I was correct in a speculation that I am going to make on my Saturday webcast. The art of depletion is going to get into a possible reason for all these events to have taken place. I'm going to do my best to outline, item by item, why all these separate events coalesce into one outcome, and how this house on a hill with its surrounding fields of corn and animals and farm equipment and antique cars and various collections factor in here. Why was the federal income tax allowed not to be paid? Why was the property tax not paid? Yet the mortgage was paid and is continuing to be paid. Why this juxtaposition in procedures? Why weren't tools that were available not utilized? Why were methods not employed? Why did certain events that could have wrested Field McConnell out of his predicament taken place? The same could be said of Timothy Charles Holmseth. Why weren't steps taken that could have been taken to get Tim Holmseth out of his predicament? All easily solved, all easily remedied. Easy solutions that should have allowed both these individuals to continue on with their so-called mission. They could be crusading for their children. They could be out there getting proceeds for a veteran's ranch. They could be solving crimes. They could be helping. They could be doing all these things. Instead of having one rotting in jail, doing Bible readings on a daily basis and begging people not to fight, and another individual holed up in a gilded cage, popping out conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, knowing in the back of his mind that there's a piece of paper out there that could put him in prison at any given time. What is it that put these two individuals in this situation, and why? On Saturday, January 18th at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, I will get into the art of depletion and why it is taking place. Rather curious speculation Might be a wild one. But it might explain the postmaster of the world, the pedophile Pentagon task force, possibly the Children's Crusade. It's going to go a long ways to explain why a lot of this stuff happened the way it did and why it fell apart. Because it has fallen apart. There are efforts being made to get the Children's Crusade up and running, but it's not working out. It's dying. Probably by the spring it'll be gone. I had thought that perhaps someone was going to be able to salvage either one of these, but this may not be the case. The Field Report Channel 2 has not done anything in a week. That's a sign that Kirk Pendergrass has abandoned the attempt to associate himself with Bill McConnell. He's gone back to doing his little law seminar on Facebook. I'm not even sure there's a Kirk's Law Corner on YouTube anymore. Maybe there is. But at least it's on Facebook. Now he's fading off into his own thing. A person that should be a principal and a leader in the fight for Field McConnell is relatively silent. She publishes conspiracy theories. If Tim Holseth writes something, it turns up on the Facebook page. But other than that, there isn't much going on with this individual. And again, the same holds true of Timothy Charles Holmseth. He puts on his daily conspiracies. He might even make an extremely rare appearance on his Facebook. But other than that, there really isn't much of anything going on. And the most important and life-changing event that seems to be going on right now is a woman sitting in a Montana courtroom deciding whether or not she's going to fight extradition to Colorado. That decision is what everybody's lives hinge upon. Not so much what the outcome will be, so much as when will the outcome happen. And so we wait, and we shall see. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. Have a good one.